Minus Jake here, back after quite a while of releasing a video. I think it's been at least a month or more. And this one is one that if you are a viewer of my wife's stream, that you might remember this battle. And yeah, I've got the Sixth Sense bug, so let's restart this and get rid of it. And which, if you do run into a number of the replay bugs, the lack of engine noise or the Sixth Sense icon appearing on, all you have to do is hit the back button, which is the left arrow button, and it'll restart the replay and hopefully get rid of any of the bugs. So I have my engine running and no light bulb showing, so we're good to go. And like I was saying, if you watched my wife's streams, you may have caught this game live. And this was a game, just a nice tier 7 battle here, which is unironically my absolute favorite tier to play in the game. Tier 6 or 7, especially now with some of the new vehicles that are coming out. Tier 9, 10 gameplay is going to be pretty much wrecked for the next month or two, or maybe permanently. So tier 7 is absolutely my favorite to play. Lots of good vehicles here. They're competitive when they're bottom tier. You know, if you have to face the tier 8s and 9s, and when they're top tier, they're still, of course, immensely capable. But it is a tier 7 game, split with tier 6s here on the Murovanka map, and myself being a Cromwell-based tank destroyer, which that is what the Challenger is based off of. I have no armor, but I do have a turret, decent mobility, and a very, very good gun. Particularly if you do dig into the premium, very high pen. That's what you call foreshadowing, because I will end up digging into it. And if you look, a first glimpse makes it look like our team deploys fairly well. But they didn't. Our most heavily armored tank, which is the VZ-44-1, he's AFK. Our Tiger, probably the most capable heavy, is in the back. And I do have destructible cover here between myself and the KV-1S. That's why I wasn't getting the outline. But I knew I had line of sight on. Which, if you notice that you're not getting an outline, take the shot. I mean, especially with a quicker reloading gun like this, it's worth it to take the shot, because you're probably dealing with destructible cover. And what I was alluding to with our capable heavies either being AFK or at the back are two heavies that were really holding back the West. They were TOGs. And I know there's some TOG fans, but without offending the TOG fans, it's a terrible vehicle. In reality, it should actually have this gun. If you watch the British Tank Museum's video, this gun is what it should have, not the 17 pounder. But as it is in the game, it's just a whole bunch of HP with, I mean, the 17 pounder's not bad, but it's not great for facing off against something like an SMV 66 or SMV CC 56 directly in the front. That thing will eat a TOG alive. And that's what was happening. The two TOGs were getting killed by things like the M2Y, the SMV CC, the KV3, the Juno, the Thunderbolt, the M6, things that could easily deal with a TOG by just trading higher alpha damage for getting plinked by the 17 pounder. And our team pushed around and actually won the East. But as you're seeing, now with the Tiger dead and the AFK VZ dead, I'm it. And yes, you're seeing me shoot premium. This is a do or die situation. And with the M2Y, yes, there are multiple positions I could pen it with regular, but it's a do or die situation. So yes, I'm firing premium. which if you watch me, that's not typical. But to stem the tide that's rolling in, this is definitely like a tsunami coming in. And the SMBCC is a 50-50 pen with AAP, and it's actually even resistant to the APCR at the range that I'm dealing at. If you look, when I actually fire premium, it's not a guaranteed pen. I still must aim the shots. And the M2Y, it has that weird boat-shaped hull, which is pretty resistant to my armor piercing. It has to be a pretty dead-on shot. And again, at the ranges, with them moving, that's a difficult proposition. Now, my wife, she's been playing her Cheeto SP, and she has been quietly racking up some serious damage of her own. As you can hear, her substantially more aggressive sounding weaponry compared to the Challenger's more modest sounding gun. But we have our M6, who right now is making the worst play he could make. We're still being pushed, and he's pushing forward. And if you noticed, I actually let that enemy KV-3 get into cover a little bit, so there was more bushes when I fired between myself and him. Because double bush for concealment during firing doesn't have to mean that you have two directly in front of you at close proximity. It can mean like I'm in a bush here, I've got the one in front of me, and I let the KV-3 drive past one in between myself and him at 300 meters away. But now we are still definitely nowhere near pulling this out. With the enemy M6 now finished off, we are still outnumbered. 2-1. Right now, at this point, even after stopping their push on our base, we're outnumbered 2-1, and they have an SMV. Now, I am running very low on ammo, if you see, and I can't afford to take too much in the way of risky shots. And I need fully aimed shots, such as that one, to hit. Because I am now down to 10 rounds total, including my HE. And I will say the Cromwell, he actually does a very good job of not getting himself killed and flat out outplaying that Super Hellcat. Because that is a humongous risk he took. But he did the best with the chance that he had presented and was able to knock out the Super Hellcat. My concern was that he might get hit not only by the two enemy artillery, but also the M6 that's right there. Because the M6 is in a pretty close position to that Cromwell. Thankfully, he gets out of there, because with him down, that would have been most of our mobility gone. Because while I'm based on the Cromwell, with the extra weight of the turret, this big turret, and the weapon, the Challenger's not super fast. At least definitely not an agile vehicle. And I can't rotate the turret fully. Unlike Cromwell, who is a very fast and agile tank. So, with that said, we have a turretless tank destroyer that my wife's playing with the Cheeto SP. Very, very good frontal armor, pretty good mobility, very punchy gun, but not able to spot really for itself. Got myself in what's kind of a hybridized tank destroyer medium, trying to play a little bit of both worlds, and doing so pretty well. And then unfortunately we have our Cromwell, who is going to have his luck run out. He gets the M44. The M6 presents itself. And we're going to be able to deal with him. Now remember, I'm keeping a very close eye on my ammo. Normally, I would just be running through and just blind firing everything, but I see that that is a miss. And like I was saying, our criminal's luck was going to run out, and he ended up charging face first into the SMV. And that was actually a pretty fortuitous event there. She was able to charge in, and with her armor on the Cheeto SP, she was able to actually take the hits while I covered her. And now, while we were playing this live, I asked for her to come on up to where I am at, and that once she gets close and gets into position here, I'm hoping that the SMV and the Juno stay roughly where they're at. And if they do, I'm going to make the long play here. I'm going to go all the way around, get into the concealment provided by the forest over here on the east side of the map, and try to sneak in behind the Juno and the SMV. And if they're still in those positions, then get her to move up. That's the game plan as right now as I'm moving in. I'm hoping to use, of course, the buildings here for concealment, hoping that the SMV stays over there roughly around the H1 area. He might, I'm suspecting like maybe he moves down to J1, K1, K2, starts working his way down along the map border. Because from his position there at H1, that's what I would do. I would move in there. And with the Juno where his last position was, I would actually be able to, I would actually stay there if I was the Juno. Because then you'd be able to cover the SMV. But I'm not spotting anything. Nor did I get spotted. Because that can tell you just as much as you actually doing the spotting. If you get spotted moving into a position, well, you know that somebody has at least a line of sight to where you are. And then, of course, you can play around with that a little bit, and you can figure out kind of where the spotting happened from. Like crossing the gap there, nobody had eyes on me. And nobody has eyes on me till now. So where did I get spotted from? Oh, the Juno is in front of me. And the SMV is all the way back there? Huh. Unexpected. The fact that they did that, and of course that the Juno was able to snapshot me that quick, that was a little surprising. Of course, the Juno is just firing premium, which can't blame him, honestly. If he was expecting my wife in the Cheeto, I wouldn't blame him for that. But that allows him to actually just simply auto aim and poke the ridge and fire. So I have to be careful. And on 2 HP, they know where I'm at. But I absolutely was thrown for a curveball on the SMV actually falling all the way back to A3. That was a bit crazy, actually. Because it's not a fast vehicle. Even if they're running a turbo, that is a slower vehicle. And he fell all the way back. But right now the game plan is just to let her move up. Because now she's in a good position to be able to take the Juno out. And I can't risk taking a shot here. I was hoping that he had pulled down far enough that I would not be spotted, but unfortunately, he did spot me before pulling down below the ridge. And the SMV made another odd move. He pushed up. I'm shocked that he did. And I should not have auto-aimed that. That absolutely should have been me aiming that manually, because that could have cost the game. And I risked the auto-aim because I'm trying to keep an eye on where his turret is. And that is one of the reasons to do that. You do have to expose yourself a little more, but you can watch where the enemy's turret is instead of being tunnel visioned. And here I am aiming in, and I auto aim again, mainly so I can watch his gun and get on the move. But then I low roll. She's letting me have the last kill for the top gun, which was very nice of her. But a little too much auto aim. And then I laughingly could have gotten a very, very rare medal had I just intentionally missed one more shot. But I ended up with a ace tanker, the high caliber, top gun, and a WN8 of almost 10,000 for this 4,002 damage game with a tiny little bit of assistance. I had 340 spotting. Here on the Murovanka map, the team score was right here, me with 4,000 damage, 6 kills, and 1,231 base experience. She got a couple thousand damage herself, and without her, it would have been a loss. So it wasn't all just me. It was good teamwork, especially at the end, and the Cromwell himself also had a very good game. But that was the Challenger and Cheeto on Murovanka. Hope you enjoyed it.